And we are live with our recording. And we're live with our Facebook office hours feed. Thank you, everyone who's joining us. There's two conduits through which we promote this feed. The first one is Facebook Live, so you can always join us directly from the Facebook group. And the second one is the Easy Webinar link. Easy Webinar is probably a slightly more seamless experience. It's meant specifically for this purpose, but Facebook's nice if you just want to drop in and drop out, depending on the questions you may have. I'm really excited about today. Before I get started with our office hours, I actually want to give a really big shout out to one of our members, Aldea Montessori. And the head of school over there is Donna. A lot of you probably know Donna. She was one of our very first third plane members. Um, we rebuilt her site based on the Nido site template, and we have recently launched her marketing campaign. Her campaign went live on March 20th, so she's been live. I think that's 17 days. Um, in that time, we have produced 33 leads. So she's had 33 legitimate inquiries from prospective parents in 17 days. So almost two leads a day, which is, I just am so excited about that. So she's been amazing as a client. She's listened to everything that we've said and taken all of our recommendations to heart. And so a lot of this is her hard work. And then a lot of it is the success and efficacy of the campaign. So not that I want to go for the hard sale, but I just want to highlight some of the value in our higher end planes. Third and fourth plane members, I think, just receive a lot. And if that's not in the budget, that's no big deal, because I can tell you that every single thing we do for our third and our fourth plane members, all of those strategies exist in the second plane education. And so if you can't afford the third plane for whatever reason, I'd strongly encourage you to take some of the second plane courses, because all of the things that we did for Aldea to produce those 33 leads in 17 days, all of those strategies and tactics and marketing approaches are included in the education that we provide. So great big pat on your back, Don. I really appreciate you trusting us with this, because I know it's hard in the very beginning to kind of take that big leap. So well done. Um, Back to business. Welcome to office hours. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to drop those into the group chat. There's a chat utility with Easy Webinar, and you can also just write a comment on the live video if you're watching via Facebook. If I don't see any questions come in, I've got an itinerary that I like to go through as well, and I'll just roll on with those until you chime in with any questions you have. The first thing I wanted to bring up is the blog. If you haven't subscribed to our blog, strongly recommend doing so. The best way to do that is just to make sure you're signed up as a first plane member, and you'll receive notifications anytime we submit new blogs. The blog that I think is worth looking over today, the newest one, talks about why sliding header images are costing you enrollments. Now, we have all seen this. As a matter of fact, I'd say about 80% of the schools, that's a from the hip data point. I don't know if that's actually the real number, but about 80% of the schools that I see are using a sliding banner across their site. And the sliding banner is when you jump on a site and you notice that the main image scrolls. And the issue we're going to run into, this actually used to be the gold standard in the world of web development. But what ends up happening now, because we're so acclimated to it, and even that we're actually kind of inundated with it, is what we call banner blindness. And banner blindness is it's a phenomena where people just assume that the content in the banner images is generic and not necessarily pertinent to them. And so you've probably seen this yourself, but you jump onto a website and you immediately scroll past the sliding banner, because you know that the sliding banner is just a bunch of genericized kind of platitude type information that you're not going to need, and you go look for what's most pertinent to you. So what we talk about in this blog, and what I'd strongly recommend considering, is using hero images. And hero images are going to not dilute your viewers' attention, and they're going to deliver a very specific call to action. And that specific call to action typically is the most important one for your target member. For Montessorians, I actually have very strong opinions as far as this is concerned. I think that you either want to have them try to schedule a tour, or download tuition information, or potentially deliver a piece of content, a strong piece of content as a lead magnet, and that ends up being a really strong call to action. So if you're not doing one of those things, then I think you're probably diluting the efficacy of your most valuable real estate. And I'll actually use Aldea as an example. This is from our templated site. And you'll notice that we have really specific calls to action. This banner does not scroll. This is a static image. Um, and the image is chosen by design. We wanted to show, children in the act of learning. You'll notice that it's kind of multifaceted. We've got one little guy in the background sitting down or on the floor, a kid sitting at the table, and then a kid standing up. So you kind of have your three tiers. This is a filmmaking strategy. Actually, you kind of have your three-tiered frame, and it provides not only some dynamic visual elements, but it also, I think, really helps illustrate how multifaceted Montessori can be, and how the education is customized to the interest of the child. And so you choose your most compelling image. And this can be cycled out. You don't have to stick with one image forever, but you do want to choose one image so you're not contributing to banner blindness. And then you choose a very compelling message. And for Montessori education specifically, Education for Life, I think, is a really compelling message. But that doesn't have to be your message. You want to customize that message to your school. So whatever you think, your elevator pitch is, you can kind of drop it here. It doesn't need to be this short. You can actually put a big block of text here, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You'll know that we did that with Nito's site. So Nito's site has quite a bit in the way of content, and that's okay because it's compelling and it's targeted, and we have a very specific call to action. So going back to Aldea's site, there's two, and you'll notice we're using what's called the isolation effect here. So the schedule a tour button is our most powerful call to action. That's where we want people to go. And we use a really specific color. You notice this color is not really present in any of the other assets or media except for our calls to action. And it's consistent throughout the entire site. So there's a schedule a tour in the top right-hand corner, schedule a tour in the main banner, and it's pretty obvious that this is our primary call to action. And then the secondary call to action, and this was based on the client, on Donna's input, is the school calendar, because we want parents to be able to see, hey, these are all the fun things that we do, and options are available to you, etc. So you don't have to have a secondary call to action. You absolutely can. We actually call these in the marketing world direct calls to action and transitional calls to action. So schedule a tour would be a direct call to action, meaning this is something you're going to do that engages you with us directly. And then a transitional call to action can be something like viewing information, watching a video, downloading a lead magnet, reading a blog, etc. Transitional calls to action are for members of your community or visitors to your site that aren't ready to convert just yet. They're still interested, but they don't want to talk to you. And we don't want to discard those people. We want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to engage with us further and then slowly nurture that relationship. So going back to the blog, you don't want to use a sliding banner. That's my very strong opinion. And there are data-driven reasons for this. I can tell you that websites that have a sliding banner, a scrolling banner, have a lower engagement rate than websites that have a hero image with a really strong and focused call to action. So if you have a sliding banner, this is not a difficult thing to fix at all. You just want to pick one of your banner images and pick the best one, and then freeze your website on that banner image and make sure you have, at a minimum, a very compelling call to action. And I think if you're only going to have one call to action, then it should be the direct call to action. If you have two, then the second one can be transitional. But you don't really want a transitional call to action to be your main call to action unless there's a strategic purpose for that. So you have a direct call to action, and then also make sure that you, when somebody lands on your site, you need to let them know what you're about right away. Statistically, you have 7 seconds. You have 7 seconds for people to qualify you as a potential value provider. And they're going to bounce from your site in 7 seconds unless you're able to say, hey, this is who we are and this is why we're right for you. And so you want to make sure that you make that case in 7 seconds. Now, again, it doesn't have to be sparse. I think that Nito does a really good job at this. Join the premier online community for Montessori schools. That's far less than 7 seconds, and you immediately know who we are and what we're about. And then if I've qualified myself in that 7 seconds, I give you the opportunity to learn more. And of course, my direct call to action is to join for free. And we make it really easy to join. You click on that button. We say no credit card required. This is free forever. Fill out your information. And let's get started. You can do something very similar. And your direct call to action doesn't have to be schedule a tour. I actually think downloading tuition is a direct call to action. A phone call is a direct call to action, filling out a quick form. But just make sure you're very clear on what it is you want people to do. A confused mind will say no. And we need to distill our website calls to actions down to kind of their purest form. You don't want to overestimate your user base. You actually kind of want to underestimate them a little, because remember, you know this so well. You know it like the back of your hand. You know Montessori education. They don't. This is something I have to remind myself as a marketer all the time, because I know marketing so well that I make so many assumptions. And people that don't know marketing, I have to start from literal zero. That doesn't mean they're stupid. That just means that there's a knowledge gap. So the same is true for your parents. You need to make sure that you're distilling this down to simplest terms and letting them know what you want them to do. As they travel down the website, and this should be true throughout your entire site, you'll notice that the calls to action become more transitional. So, watching the video about Aldea, this is slightly more direct than, reading a blog article, for instance, but it's obviously not a direct transition or call to action, because, you're not asking them to do anything. And then we offer program information. We do give them the opportunity to schedule a tour throughout the site, but you'll notice that now that they're halfway down the site, we've actually changed our call to action. Now it's no longer schedule a tour, which is, as close to the bottom of the funnel as you can be. And when I say funnel, I'm referring to the sales funnel. Now we're saying, hey, if you're not interested in scheduling a tour, it's no big deal, but maybe you should download our tuition rates. And we give them a quick form, and it's really easy to fill out. And we let them know that we're going to email them the tuition rates right away as they fill out that form. And then when they get down to the bottom, we make it very soft touch. Just request information, because you don't want to schedule a tour. Totally understood. You don't want my tuition rates. Totally understood. Well, those are my two most important calls to action. So now when you hit the bottom of the page, I want to kind of lob, the ball in your court and say, hey, what are you looking for? How can I help you? And so there's a very clear narrative. If you pay attention to the strategy on this site, the call to action at the top is direct, and it's as close to the bottom of the funnel as you can possibly be. And the irony here is, as you move down the page, we move up the sales funnel. And so, over here we're now offering them tuition rates, and then you get to the very bottom and we want to offer them just general information. And you'll notice that we're actually pretty consistent with that throughout all of the pages on the site. So if you're not doing that on your site, I strongly recommend doing so, because I think it will be of value to you. And again, that blog is available on our site under the blog menu. Another thing that I wanted to just highlight for all of our second plane members and up is the May content is now available, which is always really exciting. I think this is one of the best pieces of value that we provide. So if you haven't done this yet, go to the resources section when you're logged in, and you'll notice that we have blogs and emails available to our third and fourth plane members. And then we have social posts available to our second plane members. And the blogs are written by a trained Montessorian, and they're written specifically for Montessori schools. So just to give you an example, one of the blogs for next month is 5 reasons why you should share why you chose Montessori. And this is a call to action to your parents to share their decision making with their peer group, because it's really incumbent upon all of us to share Montessori as a method and a model. It's not going to reach critical mass until people are willing to advocate for it. I believe that to be a fact. And so it's our job to educate parents to that end. And this is one article that sort of helps kind of champion that message. And again, it's not that you couldn't write these yourself. You absolutely could. But we make it easy because you have so many more important things to do. Another one of the articles that I'm just really proud of and really love is the book list. This is a book list for parents that, they're not all necessarily just Montessori books per se, but they have a Montessori bend to them. And this is a great piece of content for you to post on your site. This really helps establish you as a thought leader, and it ensures that you're positioned in a way that makes you the authority in the space. So instead of them going out into the ether, you let them go to your site. And we do the same thing with the emails. The emails give you the opportunity to update parents on a regular basis, and the emails draw from the blog, so there's a lot of continuity. So you'll notice that this email is very consistent with the blog article I just shared with you. You have some bullet points. You can link to the article if you want to, and then we have some placeholder. So if you want to include recent news, hey, we just hired a new guide. Or upcoming events, you can absolutely do that. And this gives you the opportunity to send out a weekly newsletter, again, without making it hard. We've made it really easy for you. So, just full disclosure, if you're not using this content and you have access to it, I really strongly recommend reevaluating that decision, because I think it would be of immense value to you. So, please, the blogs and emails are available to our third and fourth plane members. To our second plane members, the social posts are immense value. And we actually sent the May social posts out to our first plane members for free this month, because we want to show you what it is that we're trying to provide. So if you have the ability to schedule social posts, I recommend doing so. I used to not, interestingly. As a matter of fact, I've been on some consulting calls with a few of you where I told you not to schedule your posts, and that incidentally was ill-informed. With my apologies. It used to be that if you pre-scheduled your posts, Facebook didn't provide quite the same level of reach. Well, that's not true anymore. If you pre-schedule your posts now, the data shows that there's very little difference. So you can take 10 minutes out of your day and go into a tool like Hootsuite, or you can even use Facebook Scheduler and pre-schedule all of your posts. And in about 10 minutes, you have a whole month's worth of social post scheduling completed. And again, we write all the posts for you. That doesn't mean you have to use these exactly as they exist, incidentally. You can modify them, and you should modify them, is my opinion. You want to make sure that you're, customizing them to your school so they match your voice and your mission and your vision and your values. But we make it easy, so you don't have to spend all the time coming up with all this content. You just take what we provide and you customize it accordingly. So please make sure you're taking advantage of those assets. If you're not a second, third, or fourth plane member, I'd encourage you to look into it. We offer free consulting calls on that. So if you have any questions about what's involved, or even if you're looking for slight customization in terms of what we provide, I can't promise you that we'll accommodate that, but it's always a conversation we're willing to have. So again, the resources are available for the month of May. That's one blog every week, one email every week, and then the social posts for the entire month. And if you're not taking advantage of those, please do. One thing I'd like to highlight too is the forum. I would love to make this a hub for Montessori conversation. We have 300 members now. There's 300 Montessorians that are a part of NITO, which is just awesome. But a lot of you are wallflowers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Feel free to just participate as much as you feel comfortable. But if you have the ability, the opportunity to post the forum, I would ask you to do that. Questions, advice that you have, and then I'd love for you to share your successes. And one of the successes that I want to share today on Office Hours is Jan Creed. Jan, we've been running her marketing for a little under a month, and she's been getting quite a few leads, but none of the leads have produced a new admissions yet until she posted about this yesterday. But she had a prospect that came in. They saw our Facebook ads. I actually don't think they came in from Facebook, but they were being remarketed by Facebook, which is great. And just sort of reaffirms their decision. But the thing that she wanted to post about was the fact that the ongoing nurture, the email nurture that she created, really seemed to be what kind of helped drive this particular sales process home. And she just wanted to share with other Montessorians that this was of value to her and could be potentially of value to them. So if you haven't done this yet, one of the things I'd recommend doing is go to the resources section in the members area. And one of the things we have available to everybody is the email nurture template. And what's cool about the email nurture template is, again, it's done for you. So anybody who enters your funnel, and again, your sales funnel it's just a fancy word for the conversation you're having with your prospects. But anybody who becomes introduced to your school in any way should be dropped into your email nurture template. And you'll notice it's very linear. So here's email number 1. Welcome to my school. Just want to let you know this is who I am. This is what I'm about. By the way, whitelist my emails. They're important. I'm giving you really good information here. Make sure you get them. Make sure you like my school on Facebook and let me know if you have any questions. I want to help. One of the things that we do is we like to kind of create an ongoing conversation. And so we set the expectation that we're going to be reaching out to them. And so we let them know that we're going to tell them more about the Montessori Foundation tomorrow. We always remind them to schedule their tour. And then email number 2 continues that conversation. You don't have to use this content verbatim. As a matter of fact, I'd prefer if you didn't. All this does is make it easier for you. It gets the conversation started, and then you get to go in here and customize them to your heart's content. Now, 80% of all conversions happen after the 5th email. That's an Infusionsoft statistic. So you notice that we go to email 7. And if you wanted to go email 8, 9, and 10, I'd recommend doing so, because what you're doing is you're just keeping yourself top of mind in the minds of these parents. Now, the content is available to you to use. We also have a course for our second plane members and up. The course is called Lead Magnets. And this is how you build a tool that gets people to A, provide their email address in the first place. This typically ends up being tuition information, but it doesn't have to be. And then B, we teach you how to build an ongoing nurture inside of MailChimp. So MailChimp is free to use under 2,000 subscribers. And I imagine most of you will be under 2,000 subscribers. And this is a step-by-step tutorial on how to build this nurture that we're talking about. And it's so easy to do. You can do it in about 15 minutes. And so the entire course will probably take you, let's say it takes you an hour. In 1 hour, you're going to position yourself to receive the contact information from every single person that visit your site, which is just such a phenomenal value add. So please, if you haven't done this yet, I really strongly recommend doing that. The other thing I'd like to point out is inside of the resources section, we also, you don't necessarily have to deliver your tuition as the only lead magnet. We have a bunch of other lead magnets here. So one that I want to point out, just because it came up yesterday, the 43 short tips to help you be a better parent. This is so compelling. And what's nice about this is people don't necessarily have to be Montessori focused. There are a lot of mission appropriate parents out there that don't necessarily know about Montessori, or at least they're not searching specifically for Montessori. So you can put content in front of them that is still compelling, but isn't Montessori specific. But what's nice about this content is anybody who's interested in 43 short tips to help you be a better parent, this is pretty close to mission appropriate qualification in my mind. I know there are other nuances, but this gets you there. You know that anybody who's downloading this is the type of parent that you at least want to talk to. And we've made these so easy to customize. So a few of the things that you can do here, you can immediately customize them at the click of a button. And so I'm just using dummy images, obviously, but you can add your logo, change your school name, update your own imagery. This would be your headshot, or maybe it's your admissions director, and customize this content so it suits you and your school. And now if you save this as a PDF, which is easy as going save as PDF document, you now have an amazing lead magnet. This is an awesome piece of content that you get to push out into your subscribers. So, and there's a ton of them. We've got so many of these. It's not funny. It's actually a little overwhelming. So pick one and you can use this. You can put it on your site and make it available for download. You can actually just share these with parents ad hoc. If somebody comes across and, they have a question, how do I choose the right Montessori school for me? Bam, a common sense guide to choosing a Montessori school. We want to make marketing easy for you, and so we're creating as many assets as we possibly can to that end. So please make sure you're looking at the resources, because I just think they're of immense value. And don't forget about the courses. Like I said earlier, we produced 33 leads in 17 days for one of our members. 33 leads in 17 days. That's almost 2 leads every single day. And we were able to do that using all of the strategies and tactics that we teach in the course library. So, we're not holding anything back. There's no difference between what we teach in the second plane and the service we provide in the third plane. So if you're a second plane member and you can't afford the third plane, there's no problem with that. With a little bit of time, some sweat equity, you can do everything we're doing for all of our third plane members, and you can do that using the resources that we've provided here. On that note, if there are any resources that we're not making available to you, if there's something that you want or that you need that we don't have, let us know. We'll create it. Treat us like order takers. We're your team now. We're your marketing team. You have to be comfortable with us sharing it with the entire community. But if there's a piece of content you want, a piece of media, let's say you want an infographic or, a comparison chart or a video or a course on something. If you say, hey, I've always been trying to figure out, I don't know what it is. We'll go to school on it. We'll figure it out and then build training. So please help us help you. If there's gaps, anything that you want us to fulfill, we're more than willing to do that. So that's everything that was on my itinerary to talk about. We still have another 7 minutes. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into chat. I'll hang tight and if there's anything that we want to talk about or come up with. If you're on Easy Webinar, the chat pane is there on the right-hand side. And if you're on Facebook, you can just drop a comment. Oh, and I see Jenny has a quick question. If we have a school video that we would like to share on several different pages on our website, is that considered duplicate content that will negatively impact SEO? No. Gosh, Jenny, this is such a great question. So here's what's interesting about duplicate content. Duplicate content used to be a very negative indicator. What you do still want is you want a larger percentage of your content to be unique. So Google wants to see that you're creating more unique content than not. but that's not possible for everyone. And so if you have duplicate content, the best thing to do is just to list it as no follow. And no follow is actually it's a really easy thing to assign inside of WordPress. You can create a no follow page, and I'll post this link in both chat and Facebook. But you can add no follow links, and you can actually define a page as no follow. And what that does is it just lets Google know, hey, we're not claiming that this page is our content per se. We're just providing it as an additional layer of value. And that will, in theory, it doesn't hurt your unique content ratio. Now, I think Google still catalogs those things, but I do think that they kind of follow the rules because they're the ones that define them. Videos are much easier. People are far more lenient with videos. If it's your video, it's custom content on every page you put it on, because the pages are being indexed individually, and Google wants to see how they relate in the context of that content. So, interestingly, the same video on two different pages can have two different purposes. So you can use the same video to your heart's content, and it should not negatively impact your SEO at all. If you're using somebody else's video, you can still use that video, but it's not going to provide you with any SEO benefit unless the content you have written around the video is of immense value and the engagement ends up being higher than anywhere else that video is hosted. So I'd say feel free to use that video to your heart's content. I don't think you're going to have any negative SEO impacts at all. Where you will start to see some issues is if you end up becoming like a big video curator, and if you're posting a bunch of other people's videos on a bunch of your pages, and you're doing this often and without providing any additional context or custom content, then you probably are going to have a problem. But if it's one video and it makes sense for your page, then I think you're perfectly fine. Google is getting rid of a lot of the old school SEO rules. So copied content, interestingly, you don't get penalized for copied content any longer, which is an interesting decision for Google to have made. I can go and I can copy content directly from Wikipedia. And again, in theory, it's not going to necessarily hurt my ranking as long as elsewhere I'm providing unique, valuable content. What copied content does do is it doesn't provide you with any value. So, for instance, actually, just as a really good example, the blogs that we're sharing with you, when you host these on your site, they're not going to hurt you, but they're also not going to help you from an organic standpoint. The only way to get organic ranking is to produce your own unique content that is also of unique value. Now, interestingly, and this is where this conversation gets a little cyclical, if you rank really well in your geography, let's say you're in Illinois, and you rank really well in your geography for other reasons, and then somebody searches for key phrases that relates to one of our blogs that you've posted, you could rank for these key phrases contextually, meaning just in your geography, because you rank for other key phrases, and Google thinks that inside the confines of your ecosystem you're relevant, then even though this isn't unique content, you could still potentially rank for it. Now, it's not exceptionally likely. I wouldn't ask you to bank on it, but it is possible, and I do see it happen often. So you can use copied content. Like I said, it's not going to hurt you, other than you want to make sure that you keep your unique to copied content ratio somewhat positive. If you can be 51-49 or better, that'd be great. Again, that's not always possible. And I don't want you to obsess over it, because SEO has so much more to do with engagement than it does anything else. Really, the single most important thing for search engine optimization to keep in mind is once your website is transparent, meaning Google can actually see it, the single most important thing is engagement. If people come to your site and they browse and they do watch some videos, Google's tracking all of this engagement right now, and they fill out forms. They go to additional pages, they subscribe, they share, they comment, they like. Those are ranking indicators. If people are browsing the site, Google's going to look at that information and say, oh, these folks must be relevant because, people are engaging. So I hope does that answer your question, Jenny? I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I just wanted to be as thorough as I possibly could. Was that helpful? I talk too much. I get really passionate about this stuff. It's my favorite topic in the whole wide world. Any other questions about honestly anything? Colleen, I noticed you just joined. I'm going to have recordings for the rest of office hours available too. But if you have any questions, I don't mind staying late, by the way. Office hours is supposed to go on for about a half hour, but I actually hold an additional half hour after the fact. So if there's anything pressing, I really want you to feel comfortable using this as a resource. So, it doesn't have to be generic information. We can talk about your school specifically. I can even pull your school website up. I don't mind building campaigns live on office hours if you wanted us to, help you with lead magnet creation or build a nurture live or any of those things. As long as you're not shy, we can do that. So, use this as your own personal tech support. There's nothing wrong with that. It's one of the benefits of being a member. I'm going to hold the line just to see if there are any other questions. Oh, actually, I've got one on Intercom. That's great. I've never used Facebook for advertising, and I'm wondering how would be the best way to start. I'm starting an at-home Montessori preschool. This comes from Allison. Allison, thank you so much for your question. I can tell you that Facebook is tough. Facebook is tough. We've created this really weird narrative for some reason that Facebook is the key to cheap and limitless leads, and there's some truth to the fact that Facebook is a lot less expensive than other networks. Google AdWords, I think, is still the single most important lead generation tool you can use, but it's also far more expensive. As a matter of fact, my opinion is if you're not spending at least $500 a month, we actually have a $1,000 a month minimum for clients before we'll be able to manage our AdWords campaign, just because until you reach that threshold, it's going to be very hard for us to be successful. So if you don't have that type of budget, Facebook becomes very attractive. The problem with Facebook is, as an ecosystem, Facebook can be very difficult to figure out. So we do have a course on Facebook ads that I'd strongly recommend taking. The bait and switch about this course is it's actually more how to manage your manager, choosing a vendor, managing that vendor, understanding key performance indicators, than it is how to create your own Facebook campaign. Now, if you want to create your own Facebook campaign, we're putting out an article this month on the highest performing campaign template we've ever had. And it's the campaign that we use for our members. It's actually the campaign that I talked about earlier today, where we produced 33 leads in 17 days for Aldea Montessori. That's the campaign we're using. So you're gonna have that asset in the month of April. What I'd recommend doing is starting small. You want to use what's called Facebook lead ads, and that's exceptionally important, by the way. Don't drive traffic from Facebook to your website unless you're using the Facebook Pixel, which is kind of hard to set up. So if you haven't set up the Facebook Pixel, the nice thing about Facebook lead ads is it's self-contained. So you're driving people to a form that exists still inside of Facebook, and so you don't have to play with your website at all. And Facebook lead ads allow you to customize the forms, and so you can ask for the information that you think is necessary. And what's kind of cool about it is the information becomes pre-populated. So if I'm a Facebook user and I see your ad, and your ad says, hey, you schedule a tour to come to our school. When I click on the link, it opens a form inside of Facebook, and the form is pre-populated with all the information that I gave to Facebook earlier. And usually that information is good. So you don't risk getting bad information. Now, the downside of Facebook is the leads aren't as good, because if you think about the mindset that your visitors are in. Somebody who goes to Google has intent. They're intrinsically qualified as a lead because they're looking for a solution. So they go to Google saying, "Oh, I need to find a school," and so they're searching for preschool or hopefully even Montessori school, and that intent makes them a far more qualified lead. Facebook, those prospects were interrupting their day, because you don't go to Facebook saying, "Oh, I hope somebody sends me an advertisement today that I'm interested in," right? You go to Facebook because you're, posting pictures of your kids or talking to people. Facebook is the single most important conduit for news for millennials, which is a data point that just came out. Millennials get more of their news from Facebook than any other source. So people are going to Facebook to be informed, and then you're able to target Facebook users according to who they are demographically, and hopefully put something in front of them and interest them. Now, even if it interests them, they have not indicated intent. And so just because they fill out your form today doesn't mean they're still going to be interested tomorrow. So one of the things that you really need to do is, if you're using Facebook, make sure you have a very strong nurture. And that means when they fill out your form, the immediate next thing they need to do is get dropped into your email nurture sequence, which means they receive an email saying, "Hey, thank you so much for filling out our form, requesting and it's it's whatever your call to action was." So if it was to request a tour, send them an email with a link to your Calendly. And if you haven't set up Calendly, please do that, because we have a course on that as well. So the first email sends them a Calendly link. The second email reminds them to do so if they haven't done it, but provides additional layers of content and value. And then I'd also recommend you following up. And this is where Montessorians, I kind of lose Montessorians a little bit in terms of the sales process. This is a compliment, so please don't take this the wrong way. Montessorians are bad salespeople. And that's usually because salespeople are bad people. And I'm sort of only just kind of half kidding. Um, we need to get better at following up with our prospects and making sure that um, we do them the service of staying in front of them, because I promise you the big bucks daycares are going to do that. KinderCare and La Petite, they're going to melt their phones. And so you need to do, at least a semi-adequate job of giving them a phone call and saying, hey, I noticed you wanted to schedule a tour. Is there a time that's adequate, good for you? If they don't answer, follow up. If they answer and give you something, that's non-committal, then make a note to follow up. But don't not follow up because they've expressed interest and you're doing them a favor, because you're a better option than some of the other options out there. So if you look at it that way, then I think it kind of positions you a little bit better to just be more comfortable. And Jenny, I've got a question from you. Do you recommend that we allow people to comment on our blog posts? We currently do not allow that. And if we do decide to allow comments, do you recommend that it be limited to subscribers of our blog? We just don't want to be in the position of having to police comments, as we have so many other things on our plate. Gosh, Jenny, you're a rock star. You're asking all the best questions today. Um, I don't. I don't think that this is your lowest hanging fruit. So to be clear, I don't recommend allowing comments to your blog. I disable comments on my blog for our agency. The only reason we allow comments inside the Neato ecosystem is because we're a membership community, and that's our job. Your job is not, you're not a content network. You're not a content curator. And unless you have like a membership community for your parents, I don't think your job is to police content and comments. And the disadvantage you're going to have is moderation is so hard. And 99 times out of 100, people are awesome, and they're going to say really cool things and it'll be engaging. But you get that one time that somebody jumps on and decides to be a jerk, and they can say something that can snowball and cause massive, massive issues. So in the world where there's, a cost and benefit, I don't think the benefits here outweigh the costs for a school specifically. So I don't think you should turn comments on. That opinion changes in my mind if you're doing a lot of custom content creation. If your intention is to establish yourself as a thought leader, and this is especially true for schools with multiple locations. If you're creating a ton of blogs and videos, if you have a podcast, if you're doing a lot of custom video, then comments help precipitate that conversation, and the conversation is what your content is for. So if you're creating a lot of custom content, then comments are probably a necessary evil. But I am phrasing it that way, and I'm kind of sticking firmly to it. They are a necessary evil. There's an evil element to them, which is you can't control the thoughts, opinions, and moods of every single human being that comes across your content. And if the internet has proven anything, it's that people can be pretty dicey. Read the YouTube comment on any video you ever land on. And I mean, it could be, I was showing I pulled up Sesame Street for my son. He and I were hanging out somewhere. I think we were at the airport, and I'm on a Sesame Street video, and I'm casually looking through the comments, and they're horrible. And if people can say horrible things about Sesame Street, they can say horrible things about anything. So I would not recommend you opening up comments unless there's a very strong reason and purpose behind it. And again, that was just a longer answer than it needed to be. I'm sorry. I get excited. Any other questions, comments, concerns, confessions, anything you're struggling with? What's your biggest struggle? What can I help with now? If we were to take something completely off your plate, if we were to, just solve a problem, what would that problem be? Because I think I can do that, by the way. I've been a digital marketer for 12 years, so I'm kind of good at this stuff. So if you're having issues, let us know. We want Montessori for every child. We didn't choose Montessori as a vertical because it's an easy vertical. We chose it because it's worthy of our time and our investment. And so if there's something we can do to help you reach more children, grow your school, increase the visibility of the Montessori model, we want to do that. And we need your help. I'm a marketer. I'm not a Montessorian. And so if there's stuff out there, if there's knowledge gaps, if there's information that we can use, if there's, stuff you wish you had to share with your parents, your prospective parents, please let us know. Colleen says, converting inquiries to tours to applications is our biggest struggle. Gosh, you are reading my mind. I love that you just said this. So I actually have a phone call with Matt Hillis today. Matt Hillis is the founder of Neato. He also owns Bergamo Montessori in Sacramento. He grew his school to almost 500 students, 4 locations. He is a rock star. And one of the issues we're facing right now, Colleen, is we have quite a few new members, as you know, and our members are not good at this sales process, the sales pipeline, nor should they be. They're not salespeople, they're Montessorians. So what we're going to do is we're creating what we're calling a lead intake SOP. And an SOP is an acronym for standard operating procedure. And we're going to come up with a better name for it. But the lead intake assets are going to help you with things like phone call scripts, for instance, because some of the phone calls we've been listening to for new leads, they don't go as well as we would like them to. And so we'll do things like create proper scripts for, when somebody calls in or first emails you, and, converting prospects into tours. And then we're also going to create assets, nurture assets that help us convert people who've taken a tour into applicants, and then hopefully, of course, accepted applicants, meaning they're mission appropriate. So that's an asset that's in the pipeline. I'd be very curious, though, if you wouldn't mind providing additional context. Are there specific pain points that you're experiencing? For instance, people that inquire, go radio silent, people that come in for a tour, never call back. What are if you wouldn't mind applying some specificity, it would really help me in the asset creation. What are some of the pain points that you're seeing that we can speak to? And while you're doing that, I see another question coming in here that I'm actually going to answer direct to chat. And if you don't have anything specific, that's no big deal either. I don't want to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure that when we do create these assets that we're... Oh, this is awesome. So Colleen's saying, I'll get our numbers. Hang on a sec. Now we're cooking with oil, I think is what they say. I love looking at data because that's really where I can make actionable recommendations. While Colleen's doing that, I want to talk about the golden ratio real quick. The golden ratio is something that a business partner of mine invented. And basically what you want to do is you want to know exactly how many inquiries you get, how many of those inquiries turn into tours, how many of those tours turn into applications, and how many of those applications turn into accepted enrolled students. And starting from the first number, which is the number of inquiries, and going to the last number, which is the number of enrolled students, you end up with a very clear funnel. And if you take the number of enrolled students and you divide that by your marketing spend, then you have your golden ratio. So let's say you spend $500 a month and you get 10 new students every month, which is a lot. I don't know that we're going to get there, but that would be $50. Your golden ratio is 1 to 50. If I'm doing that right. So what we want to do is we want to figure out what a new student costs you, which is something not every school knows. And it's really important for us to figure out. We also want to track those numbers because we can see where in the chain of events we lose conversion. If you're getting a ton of inquiries, well, then we don't need to worry about that. And if those inquiries are turning into tours, that's awesome. And if the tours are not turning into applications, then we need to figure out where the drop-off point is. And sometimes it means that you're not getting the right inquiries. Maybe it's not the number of inquiries you're getting. Maybe it's the mission appropriateness of those inquiries. I have heard from the grapevine that a lot of other agencies like to push batch and blast marketing tactics on Montessori schools. And then they try to insist that, everybody's a potential mission appropriate parent. And that's just not true. And you know that as a Montessorian better than anybody. We can't go after the whole wide world because the whole wide world isn't ready for us. We have to go after a very specific targeted niche. And if you're not targeting your niche well enough, then you're going to end up kind of just spinning your wheels, sadly. So these are all things we need to pay attention to and data points we need to pay attention to. And while Colleen's off doing that, let me know if you have any other questions that I can field. Happy to help with anything digital marketing related, tech related, website related. If I don't know the answer, I can go figure it out. I really appreciate everybody hopping on these office hours, by the way. It's nice to have an engaged user base. Oh, Jenny, I had a question for you now that I'm thinking about it. You mentioned having a tough time logging into EasyWebinar. Would you mind sharing the link that you tried in the beginning? Was it the needlemarketing.com/office hours? Because it should just forward to the EasyWebinar link. But I need to go fix that. I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yes. Okay. Well, maybe my forwarding is wrong. And where did you find that link? Was it on our website or was it via an email? Oh. Um, I'm so sorry to turn you into my tech support, but could you tell me where on the website it is? I think we posted in the forum. Oh, yep, you're right. Office hours. Oh, goodness. I know exactly what's going on here. You were awesome, Jenny. Thank you so much for uh, pointing that out to me. I'm going to fix that as soon as we get off the call. That's my fault. Colleen, last year, 22% of tours to appointments, 50% inquiry to tour. 2016, 24% tours to appointments, 51% inquiry to tours. So it looks like our numbers are dropping just a little bit. Um, so 51% of our inquiries result in tours, and that number is pretty consistent. And then of everyone that takes a tour, we used to get about 1 in 4 people to fill out an application, and now we're getting closer to 1 in 5. One of the things that strikes me immediately is I actually think, and this is going to be counterintuitive, but it'll make sense. I think that your inquiry to tours is far too high. If 50% of your inquiries result in a tour, I don't think you're generating enough inquiries. Um, this means that you're focusing solely at the bottom of your sales funnel. I'm just going to pull up a visual so I can articulate this better. Where's my favorite one? This will do. So, right now, everybody that you have coming in is down at this little pink section here. And I hope this doesn't oversimplify the problem. I'm so sorry if I'm being annoying. We'll call it the pink and purple. Because if 51% of your inquiries are resulting in tours, that means that these are people that they're too far down the sales process to really influence their thinking. 67% of the sales, 67% of the buying decision is made before people ever engage with you. And what that means is we need to start educating our prospects far sooner. So one of the things I'd like to see you do is thought leadership and list building. And that means creating content and then pushing that content out to potential members that has people making inquiries that aren't necessarily tour applicable, but drops them into your funnel. And let me know if you want to challenge me on that. And incidentally, I can actually hand you, I can enable your microphone if you want to talk about this now on office hours. But anyway, the first thing that struck me is your inquiry to tours is probably a little too high, which means you're not getting enough traffic, or you're not capitalizing on the traffic you're getting and generating an email list. Your tours to applications, I'd actually like to dig into that with you directly, because I think it depends on a lot of things. Are you finding that these parents are just not mission appropriate? Are you interested in them and they're not applying, or are you finding that they're not interested in you for some reason after taking the tour? And if you'd like, Colleen, I can also enable your microphone if you'd rather talk to me than type. And one of the things I'm going to do too is share these numbers with Matt on our call today, because I think he'd probably have a lot of really good context to add, and I can update you on his comments. Oh, yeah. So Colleen says, we're finding they're going elsewhere. The competition here is free, good public schools, and reputable public Montessori. Not as good as our AMI program, but reputable. This happens to be the bane of my existence. There's nothing wrong with Montessori public schools. I'm actually happy that they exist, but it's really difficult to compete with free. And so one of the things that we try to do is create a case for your value proposition early. I think one of the fail points that a lot of Montessori schools suffer from is they position their only value add as Montessori, and it becomes a Me Too game. Well, we're Montessori too. And the problem with that is you're going to lose that every time because now it's Montessori paid versus Montessori free. And the obvious answer there is Montessori free. So, what I'd love to see is you want to go on what we call an indoctrination campaign. When somebody first comes in, their very first inquiry, what I'd recommend doing is um, building a basis of education, and that can be done directly in person. When they come in for the tour, you can talk to them about certain facets of your programming, of course. But I also think that it's really well done via email, and you want to create content on what sets you apart. And here's the truth, and I believe this to be a fact. And please challenge me on this if I'm overstepping my bounds. You can do things that public Montessori schools cannot do because public Montessori schools still need to. They're still complying with um, you know uh, municipal education requirements that aren't we're not necessarily always subject to. Um, so I think that we need to build that value from the very beginning and make that case from the very beginning, um, and start to kind of set the expectation that you're an elevated offering. So instead of just saying, we're Montessori, you now start, and you might already be doing this too. So stop me if I'm telling you stuff you already know. But AMI accreditation is one of the more difficult to get, of course. So you can start stating that case, and then I would use content to begin educating parents on why your school specifically. So I think a lot of Montessori schools do a really good job of saying why Montessori, and that's great. But if you have kind of a saturated Montessori market, it's now time to kind of play the hey, here's why we're the best game. And Montessorians are empaths, and empaths are typically not exceptionally good at saying, hey, look at me, which is fine because you're thinking about other people. But if we want to service these children, I think we need to get good at it. So um, highlighting your value propositions and not doing it all. You don't want to be a fire hose. You don't want to overwhelm them. Like, hey, look at all this amazing stuff that we offer. So when they first come in from their inquiry, if you drop them into an automated nurture, the very first email they get is, hey, Colleen, thank you so much for your inquiry. Really grateful to you for the opportunity to help serve you and your children. I just wanted you to know we're AMI accredited, and here's what that means. By the way, tomorrow's going to feel like Christmas because I'm going to give you, I don't know what, some amazing asset that they really need, like, how to choose the right Montessori school. And by the way, assets like that, if you're not using them, when you send something like this, a common sense guide to choosing a Montessori school to a parent, some people are afraid of using assets like this because they feel like they're planting the seed that the parents should be looking elsewhere. I promise you the parents are already looking elsewhere. Montessori parents are educated consumers. These are smart people. They're looking at all their available options. However, when you send them something that says, hey, here's how you choose the right school for you, all you're doing is positioning yourself in a place of authority and above every single other option they're getting. And you can, of course, custom tailor this so your school wins out in the checklist game. It sounds like your school's going to win anyway. So I think that if you were start building that narrative in the beginning, instead of trying to do it after they come in for a tour, that the longevity to that indoctrination campaign is going to, hopefully sway more people in your direction. Um, did that make sense, Colleen? Was that helpful, or did I just talk for no reason? And as promised, I'm going to share this with Matt too, because I imagine he probably has a lot more value to provide on this topic. I might even ask him to shoot a video for the next week. News you can use. News you can use. Yeah, I said that right. And I'll hang tight while Colleen's typing. Any other questions from anybody else? I've got another 7 minutes or so. Have I put anybody to sleep? That could be another service offering, a value add. I wonder if I might have lost Colleen too. With my apologies, that means I probably didn't get to the point fast enough, which is a failing of mine. And I just want to remind everybody that the office hours recordings are going to be made available. I post And I will go ahead and hold the line for a few more minutes if there's any more questions. If you want to jump off or if you have any questions, feel free to lob them my way. And out of curiosity too, Colleen, if you're still on the line, I'd love to know where your inquiries are coming from and how you're getting them, if they're coming from Google or Facebook. Oh, and I think we just lost Colleen, which is no big deal. I'm going to reach out to her directly anyway after I talk to Matt, because I'd like to be able to answer her question with a little more thought leadership than I did. You guys, everyone, thank you so much for your time and for the questions and the participation. Really grateful to you and for you. Thanks for being members. Thanks for being a part of this community. Thanks for being Montessorians. Thanks for trying to help change the world. It's a big deal, what you're doing, and we want to help. So whatever we can do to do that, let us know. Otherwise, I will see you next Friday, same time, same place. Take care.